Great, so we're all up to speed. What I want to do is, on my application, I want to be able to edit one of these Pokemon, right? So right now I have the search feature working. Okay, wow, it's more than I thought. Okay, oh, okay, sounds about right. Feature works. We have the post working to create the new object, right? As we recall, we have some Barramundi over here. We have Mike Chang. This is apparently what you think of me. Flavor Savior, right? So that worked. Oh, wow. We miss you, Mike Chang.
Powerful.
So powerful, right? So the post works. CSS not perfect, but the post works, right? That's important. The next thing we want to do is I want to somehow edit these Pokemon, right? What would make sense to you, right? That's the deliverable. The deliverables is simply, great. Step 1, get all the Pokemon. Step 2, be able to create a new Pokemon, add it to the Pokemon array, and update the DOM. Deliverable number 3 is, I would like to update the Pokemon. Imagine that's kind of like what it's like at work, or possibly what you'll see in the code challenge, right? That would be a fair thing to ask you to do. So, what is the first thing you think about how to implement this? This will always be your choice because, as I said earlier, you could do it a million ways. So let's do it whatever way you want. What would make sense to you to be able to edit one of these Pokemon? Exactly. For each of these, right, I would need some sort of edit button. It doesn't make sense to have one massive edit button here because then, like, which one are you editing, right? I would like a little edit button at the bottom of these things, something like that, and then possibly like a delete button, right? Great. How would I add an edit button or a delete button to one of these cards? Where in my code should I be looking for how to add that or where to add it? Right. That was smart. Wait till everyone else mumbles it and then just... Right. What I heard was, right, from all of you, that when I'm creating the HTML for the individual Pokemon card, I should then probably add a button, right? Cool. So let's do that. In my HTML part, boop, 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 I can probably sneak in here, right, a button. Cool. So let's do that. A little button action. Don't forget to close this bad boy. And what do I want it to say? Did you say butt? Edit, right? Wow, I'm very creative. I'm feeling spicy. Cool. Great. So let's take a look. Wow. Powerful. We're finally on the same page. I'm gonna go tell Mike that we're good now. Before on day 1, it was like, who's this guy? Now we're jiving. Cool. Great. And I naturally probably want some sort of deleterize, right? Deleterize. Now you're really getting me. Cool. Boom! Right? But what do? They do. It do be like that sometimes. Great. So deliverable number 1 was simply, right, make a Pokemon editable, right? And all we did to achieve this was simply add an edit button. We also added a delete, because spoiler alert, we're probably going to do delete. Cool? Is this something that you feel like you could not have done on your own? Right? Great. Now we've noticed, right, the buttons don't do nothing, right? They don't do anything. So now we need to make the buttons work. Do you see how I'm just kind of like step by step, one at a time? I need to make the buttons work. When I say work though, like what does work mean? What is like the edit button? What should it be doing? Okay, great. So make the edit button listen for what? A click. So what you're saying to me is that when a user clicks this edit button, then I should do something. Cool? Great. That makes sense to me, right? What happens after that? After a user click edit, what should happen? Right. It would make sense that at this point, like a new little edit form should pop up, maybe like underneath or something, that has like the name, the back, and the forward sprite, so I can add those fields in, right? So let's see, I don't know, something like add a new edit form, right, to the Pokemon card. That's basically what you're telling me, right? We're translating that to code here. So instead of add, I can simply sneak it in and say append. Kind of no real difference, right? I'm going to append a new form when I click edit. So far, so good. Now, I have a brand new edit form, and I need that edit form to do something. Need that new edit form to do something, right? So just purely thinking it through, one step at a time. I have this brand new form that pops up. I feel like at some point I could figure that out, right? I know how to append things. I've written a form before. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. Now I need that new edit form to do something. So how do I make that new edit form do something? Well, what happens to forms? What do the users do? They submit them, right? So I need to probably You like that? Like that? It's an ear, for those that can't see. Cool, ready? Here we go. Boop. Great, there it is.
What is that shortcut?
Oh, you like that? All right, it's a toolbar thing. It's gonna take like 2 minutes to explain, so I'll show you offline. So I'm going to listen. For those that can't speak emoji, I'm a millennial, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna listen for what? Listen for a submit of what though? Of the form? Which form? The brand new edit form I just made. I have a typo? Yeah, very good, thank you. Who here cannot follow or has not been able to follow or feels like they cannot reproduce these pseudo code steps on their own? Who feels comfortable with doing what we just did on their own? Right, so far so good. Great. And then naturally, in this edit form, what should I do?
Populate the form with the existing values.
Right, the user is going to put something in, right? And so do I have access to those inputs right now? No. So can I get access to them somehow? Of course. So grab those inputs because we're going to need them. And then what? Now that I have the data and I'm listening on the form, what does the form do again? The form submits, right? And once it submits, do I want that sweet, sweet old page reload? No. No to full page reload, right? Down with that bad user experience. Up with Ajax, right? Up with hope, down with dope, right? So no to the full page reload. And how can I prevent that? I can take the event, or E, because I'm lazy. I can prevent the default. So far, so good. So my form is no longer doing the nonsense of the page reload. I have the inputs. So if the form's not submitting, how can I get the data that I have over to the server? Great, I can send some sort of fetch request with a patch. And just because I saw somebody do it, all right, what do we have? Was it yay? Yeah, this one, yay hands. Cool. Great. And now we have what I would describe as new material. Once I've hit line 27, 127, that's new material. So far, are there any questions as to the thought process as to what we just did.
How much harder is it to make something that pops up instead of just
Like a modal window?
Like a modal window? Not hard at all. I could show you offline. It's not worth doing in the lecture because it becomes too much information. I'm just gonna add it right on. I'm gonna append it. Cool? Any questions on like just this pseudocode? Who feels a little bit better about like, hey, I see a new feature. I feel like I can think through step by step kind of how to do it. At this point, what you're really gonna look at is, this is what you're Googling. You should not be Googling 116 to 126. That's like the thought process. At this point, it should be, how do I make a fetch with a patch? That would be the Google, right? I'm trying to get you into the mindset of like, if you're at work and like your boss or the senior dev or someone's like, hey, can you build this new feature? You're like, I can get like halfway through, then I'll need some help. Great, why don't you go ahead and get started and then hit me up when you need help. So here, it's just you're gonna do all this, and then once you get here, you're gonna be like, all right, so I know how to post in a fetch, but I've never done the patch. Can you help me write the patch? That would be an excellent, excellent question at work. Rather than, oh, I need to update a Pokemon. I have no idea how to do that. And then someone's walking you through it, and then halfway through, you're like, yeah, I know how to do all that. That person's gonna be like, I thought you didn't know how to do it. It becomes frustrating. And don't be scared, right? Like, please ask questions, but I'm trying to empower you, cool? So let's do this. Let's make that Pokemon editable. We added the button. Done. The buttons don't do nothing. We're at that point. Let's make those buttons work. And in order to do that, we need to listen for it. So how can we listen to this button click? Great, we can add an event listener. All right, so I just add event listener to the new button, or done. What do I need though? Got to get that button first, right? Cool. So how can I get that button? One 100% correct, and I'm gonna get there. Spoilers, man. Spoilers. I'm trying to tell a story. Great. But we still first, we have to get that button. Right? How do we get that button? Yeah, get. All right. Ooh. Nice, nice, nice. And how can we get that? How can we get this button right here? I have nothing to teach you. You're done. I'm in control of the HTML. It's so crazy to me that you're like, oh, I wish that button had an ID so I could grab it. I'd be like, yeah, me too. And then your question is like, man, it'd be so nice if it just had an ID. I'm like, yeah, it would be. And then I slowly, like a Ouija board, hand it, and I go, he's like, you could do that? I'm like, yes, you're in control. I don't mean to sound facetious. It's more like, don't forget that you are in complete control of this website. If you want to throw an ID on something, throw an ID on it, right? What ID do I want to throw on here? What ID? This bit, right? Cool. Name equals edit. Like this? So here's the thing about this, right? Name is not a valid attribute of button. It is a valid attribute for input. So how can we add special unique attributes to any sort of HTML element? We did it already. A little this, a little this, a little this. I can say data action is actually going to be edit. I'm probably going to run into the same problem here, right? What do you think I should do? Google?
Why would we just put the word edit or delete the ID? Is that preference?
Which one?
Like,
Because IDs should just be numbers.
really? Oh, so you can find it by I'm saying like for that like actual HTML hash like ID at the bottom, why wouldn't you just put edit and then the interpolated Pokemon ID?
Say again?
So like in ID of the button.
Yeah.
Quotes.
Oh, you mean like here, dash edit?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, this is what I would do. Except I would do this.
Like at the beginning.
I'm gonna do this though.
Right. You can then compare the ID much easier later to your with just the ID.
Now you're thinking. Oh, you're my favorite bloke. Just brilliant, really excellent. I'm sorry if I butcher that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Great. So, we've come across a problem where it's like, I can't grab the button, right? You shouldn't have to worry in your pseudocode about thinking through those kind of problems, because that's when the overwhelming fear of not understanding everything sinks in. It should just be, hey, what are the steps that I need? As you're executing the steps, trust in the process, trust in your own understanding that when it becomes like, all right, I need to get this button to work, the details will come as you're coding. Trying to think through every single detail right in the beginning is why you might feel overwhelmed. So, great. We're at this point where it's like, I see you. You're at this point where you want to get the button. The second you're trying to get it, you're like, wait, how can I even grab it? There's no unique identifiers. Let me add it in at that point, right? You will fix your own detailed problems as you're trying to go through. The whole point of the pseudocode, again, is just simply understanding where you're going and having that plan and knowing possibly where you're stuck, and that's going to give you the guidance you need and the confidence to start out the feature and then trust yourself that you will figure out the rest of the details. Or when you get to this, you're going to be like, oh, I don't know how to grab the button. That's when you ask us, right? You got a question?
I'm just a little confused why you put Pokemon ID in there twice.
Oh, I just put ID in here. I don't really need this. I don't need this right now. You'll see why later. You'll see why I need it later. But I'm going to leave it blank for now. Cool? Cool. So we kind of figured out that problem, right? So I'm sorry. I need that actually. How can I grab this? Does everyone remember the date, like how to grab data ID? How can I grab something with a data action? Are you sure? Okay, because to be 100% honest, I'm also pretty sure. So if somebody knows, walk me through it. Otherwise, we're going to do something very fun together. Cool. What would I Google? So something like query selector, data attribute. And then what would I want to add at the end of that? Cool. So we have query selector all using data attributes. Wow. Wow. Let's do it. I can put inside HTML a data columns, a data index number, data parent, and just give it random data that I want to make sure lives on the DOM so that JavaScript has access to it. How can I grab this? I can grab the parent, right, article, and then ask for its dataset.columns. I can also grab it literally doing article with this in CSS. Cool. So, is everyone cool so far? Just very helpful at all? Cool. What if I'm not satisfied with that? What if I want to do query selector? There's another way. You can just grab it straight from it. You know what I'm talking about, Sebastian? Straight grabbing. the data. Yeah. Here we go. Where's the correct answer? Here. Look at this. Do you see that? How I found that? I can use query selector, and I can use in brackets data dash, and then whatever that value is. It's the same as the CSS selector. So if I have an A tag with a data dash A, I can use my document.query selector with a data dash A. And I should be able to grab it. Let's see that in action because that was a lot of confusingness. Let's do it. So if I hit refresh, okay, just kidding, I'm in JavaScript hell. Oh, not really. Cool, great. So if we take a look at this button, I have a data action equals to 7-edit. Is everyone confused as to where that came from? Right? Because I wrote it in HTML. I can do var. Ugh. Let's change that. Cool. I can use query selector, and then I can say there is a data attribute, specifically a data dash action, if it equals to what? 7-edit. This may or may not work. Because let, when I enter, doesn't actually have a return value. But I can call it, right? So cool is there. Did everyone see that? How I figured out how to kind of grab that, yeah. No. But what I can do is, at some point, I know I can probably throw this in backticks, knowing full well eventually I can do something like to grab the right one. I no longer need to hard code it. I hard coded to test. It was successful, and it's simply a matter of now using my powers to interpolate and figure it out. Did I lose anyone on the ability to grab unique values using dataset and how I figured that out and how you can figure it out when you're on your own and you're like, I think I know what it looks like, but I can figure it out with the power of Google. Cool?
So are you going to get into the difference between dataset versus ID and what the benefit of using dataset?
These data actions are typically used in JavaScript to kind of grab the element or indicate a specific action. The ID and the classes are generally used in CSS, and so that's kind of where the differentiator is. They do bleed over significantly, but you can think of them in that way. Cool, great. So how can we grab this? This looks okay to me. Except we shouldn't be using cool anymore, right? What should we be using? Like edit Pokemon button. Does that look okay to you? Right? We should trust in that it should probably work. So someone alluded to the fact that I have a listener on this container already. And I'm listening for the click of this image. Do I need to create a brand new listener in this container to listen for this edit button? Or can I just add on an extra like, hey, if it's the image, flip the sprite. But if it's the edit button, do something else. All right, event delegation is very powerful. I don't need to have so many different event listeners for no reason. So they're both the same action. They are clicks. So where was that click handler? Cool? So I'm listening for a click in my Pokemon container. If it's an image. But what else can I do here? Right? This is the whole if statement. See how helpful this arrow is? And I can just go boom outside the if statement. So what, as a reminder, what is, let's console log e.target. As a reminder, whenever I click anywhere in this container, let's see what the target is as a quick reminder. If I were to refresh and I were to click inside this container, I'm getting this image. Cool? If I click this button, I'm getting this button. If I click the edit button, I'm getting the edit button. If I click the title, I'll get the H1. So anywhere inside this container, I'm going to get these unique values. Yeah.
One container represents the container that holds all of them, right? Or if you click between, if you click in the group gap, will you get?
Yeah. It'll be the divs. Right. It'll just be like the divs that are in there. Yeah. It's listening for all clicks, right? Because the console log is giving me just e.target anywhere in the Pokemon container. Cool. But I only want it to do something if that click matches what I want it to match. So far, so good? So what do I want, right? If, right, here we go, e.target dot what? Remember, right. Remember, getting the data set is a little, that's right. It has no idea what this is. Cool. Oh, dang it. I used cool already. I just, you know what? We know what the deal is. Oh, dang. Oh, dang. Dang. Dank. Dang. Cool. So what is dang? I have a button. Can I call the dang dot? How do I get to this data action? Can I just do data action here? No. How do I actually get the data? Dot action. So it's very slight syntax difference, and that's going to give me the return value. Knowing that, how can we check this? If the target dot what? Data set dot action, right, is equal to what? What is what do we have access to, or what are we comparing this against? What do we want this? Who wants to help me out here? Ready? Edit button data action.
B-U-T-T-O-N.
Like this? Are we cool with this? All right, how about we do this? Let's simply, what am I console logging now? The target to see if it comes out? Is that going to be useful? That means that if this equals to button, I will log. Otherwise, do not log. There's no log out here. So let's find out. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. You guys want to take 2 seconds to think about it? These are very crucial moments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pause it real quick. Okay, not now. I'm simply going to pause it. Awesome, so we're back. So what we did was I had it match equal to edit. I changed that, right? And the reason that works is because we overcomplicated, oh, that didn't work. We overcomplicated this edit action. Earlier we had interpolated here Pokemon ID dash edit. And it was difficult to grab that button because of that extra interpolation. The problem we ran into was that with just this, there was no unique identifier between each of the edit buttons per Pokemon. By adding in a data-ID, we were now able to see a distinction between each of those buttons. See how they highlight 4 different ones on the page? And now we have access to a unique and individual button. We can prove this by not just logging the e.target, but now we can log e.target.dataset.id, right? .dataset.id. So let's do that. Bloop, 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 bloop. Powerful. You like that? Wow, very good. So, I'm too predictable now. This is useful because, why? You now have access to a unique ID per Pokemon, and you can find. So, now that I've clicked this edit button, right? Going back to what we promised we would do, we have the listener properly installed because look, even if I click delete, nothing logs. Only the edit logs, right? Nothing else will log. That edit button is working exactly as intended. Sometimes you'll overcomplicate it. Don't be afraid to step back and make the changes that make it easy for you, make sense for you. Yeah? I was like, ooh, man, y'all walked into a trap, and I was like waiting, and so I just let it go so that I can have a teaching point. Is that cool? Does everyone feel better about a mastery of what's happening? Maybe not like, Yoda mastery level, but just at least for your own sake, you can fix your own errors, fix your own bugs.
If you would try to compare e.target.tagname to button, would it have still worked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have worked. Cool. So, now that we're in here, right, what do we want that edit form to do? We want a brand new form to kind of append, right? So how can we do that?
Whatever the element ID is, like the document.querySelector, whatever the box the Pokemon is.
Okay, so you mean e.target? What is e.target again? Well, let's find out, right? What is e.target? It's the button itself. Cool? So if I were to say this, it's the button itself, right? I can, and this is a way to do things, I can grab the button. This is the button, right? The same button I just kind of like logged. Notice this $0. It's a little sneaky because it's like italics and dark. What is, only when it's highlighted, $0. Finish this program and that will change, right? So we have $0, and I have all of these, right? Remember, we can traverse the DOM, and we can always ask for its parent element. Well, that's not the correct one, though. Oh, God. Is that... Ugh! That's so gross.
Well, is that grosser than doing a find for the specific? Like, is that grosser than taking the ID and trying to find that card using that ID?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I would do that instead. I didn't realize how nested this was. This is gross. Cool. Great. Let's not do that, right? Because it's kind of gross. You don't want to like traverse it that way. Although it did make sense, right? I like that moment where it's like, oh yeah. Except it would wind up being really gross because then you have to like traverse the parent element a couple times. Let's not work on that. What we can do is we can always grab the container we want to. What is this? Pokemon card? You know what? Let's do this. This is gross, but it's okay. And how do I add something to this? Sure, dot inner HTML. And I want to plus equals to what? Can I just add in a new thing? Let's just add in a new button and see what it looks like. All right, new button. So all I'm doing here is I'm testing to see if I add a inner HTML to the parent, what this is going to look like. Is there any questions on why I did that or what I'm trying to achieve? This right here, the parent element, is going to be this div. You see the one that's highlighted? And I'm just going to try to add this new button. And it adds this new button right here. Can I, instead, let's just do this. Straight to this, let's add the, how would I, ooh, that's gross. Is there something like this? Okay, and what can I do with this? Okay. Will that work? Look what it's asking for.
It says put node in there.
You cannot put in HTML. You cannot. You have to put in like a element, like a node element, right?
So you have to first create.
You have to create the element. That's gross. Let's do this instead, right? Let's see if we can just add on two, right? Let's do this. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And let's just see, what would it be like if I had like a form? Oops. And then I closed it. And just for posterity's sake, I put in some sort of input. And it had a value of okay. That looks about right. That looks okay to me. See how I'm like testing and like playing around to see? That looks okay to me. So if I have this form with the edit, what I can do is, remember, e.target was $0. I can do e.target dot what? Inner HTML. And I can add in a form. A form to edit, yeah? Well, we didn't like that. Do you remember? I just did it straight to the inner HTML to this, and it did that. When I did it to the parent element, right, it added it to the side. I just wanted to drop below, right? You see I'm just like playing around because I understand what's happening, and so do you. So I'm just adding the HTML, and let's see whether or not I was smart enough to give myself, wow, cool. I was. To give myself a baseline. Ooh. Cool. So what this is just going to be a form. Class form for styling, and has an ID. I put a label here, input, label, input, label, input. This looks exactly like this form up here, except it's for a edit Pokemon form, right? Button type submit, and then I put edit that Pokemon. If I hit save, and refresh.
So we want to change our method.
Is that okay? Does that look all right? Huh? All right, I'm not worried about my CSS over here. I'm talking about functionality.
Well, then look all right for the right question.
In that case, does it work? There we go. I'm just trying to give you an idea, right? You can fix it with CSS later. Huh? Shameless what? Green?
Green light.
Oh.
Red, green, refactor.
This class is powerful. All right, cool. So the problem is, in this edit that Pokemon, what does this do? Those are HTML5 validations, right? You like that? You like that? Joe, check it out. Required. All right, cool. Sorry, I wanted to sneak that in there. Either way. Look up. Look up. Oh, we forgot about that, didn't we? But did we, though? Did we? Because I remember that, look, ready? We appended the new form. We did that together, right? Just playing around because we knew how to add a form. Then we need that edit form to do something. So we should be... Let's hearing for that form, right? How can I hear for that form?
Add hearing form.
Great. Powerful. The form is currently not on the DOM, right? So can I directly listen for an element that does not exist on the DOM on page load? What you're saying is, can I do const, right? Edit form equals to a document dot query selector, right, of a particular form that does not exist. Where was that form? This one. Edit Pokemon form. Right? We have quotes and we have hash. What is edit form?
What happens if you click edit and then do it?
Let's try. Bloop, bloop. And now the form exists on the page. I cannot grab an element that does not exist on the page. Are there any questions on that? The form does not exist until that button is clicked. So will it work here if I just say const edit form and just document query selector? No, because it will not exist.
Even when you like click edit and then click edit that Pokemon.
Here's the thing though. This form is technically a part of what? The container. Am I already listening on the container? Can I listen for a submit in the container? Can I? Yeah, yes, I can. Yes, I can. All right, I'm just going to kill that right there. Yes, I can. I can. All right. So, do I have a submit listener on the Pokemon container? No, I don't. This is a click. This is a click. Stop playing. I have a click listener on it. I have a listener for a click. But I want to listen for a submit. So I can just here, except now I'm listening for a submit. And again, function keyword or arrow. What do you want? Arrow. Oh wow, powerful class. And it's going to receive the event. Let me actually just close the event listener before I get to JavaScript help. Cool. I'm listening for a submit. First thing I should do is let's see if that does anything. Yeah, buddy. What does this do though? Wait, what is E though? Oh, sorry. What am I actually hitting here? Bloop, bloop. Oh, sorry, let's hit console. Ready? Bloop, 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 bloop. I'm on the form. The target's the form because you submit forms. All right? So again, this is important to test every single thing of your code because you would assume that the target would be the button. Oh, you didn't assume that. I did, and I'm dumb. I assumed that the target would be the button, but in fact, you submit forms. So the target is going to be the form. Yeah.
So something is happening then because you're not submitting the container, which is where you're listening. Right? This is bubbling happening.
Yeah.
How does it know about the form? Why doesn't it just think the container is submitting?
Say again?
How does it know about the form? Why doesn't it think the container is submitting? Is it because the form says
It's listening for any submit that happens inside this container. And this would be the only thing that's submitting inside this container. If I had another form in here, it would listen for either of the submits inside the container. And now I want to make sure if what?
I was going to say, why don't we have multiple submits when we implement functionality to delete? No, that'll be
It's not in this form.
That will be different. And we'll get to delete in here in a second. Cool? So, if what? If e.target dot what? It has a very powerful identifier here. Is equal to what? Oh, I gotta type it like a plebe, whatever. Cool. Now I can console log, right? What can I console log? Right? Click me. Cool. Just to check it. Bloop, 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 and there it is. Yeah? Meaning, if you ever have another form inside your container for whatever reason, I can specify only if it's the edit Pokemon form, then do something. Which would make sense, right? So if that's the case, now that we have the form, we're listening for it properly, we've got it properly, is there something we need? Need the inputs, right? And how do I grab the inputs here? Can I use a query selector in here, inside this if statement, inside this submit? I could do that. I could do that. But inside here, do these inputs exist? Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. They exist in here, right? When I first, the only way to click the edit form and the submit of this is if this form existed. So can I grab the inputs here? Great. So what are the inputs? Yeah, I can do that. So what are they? Edit Pokemon name, right? And then you have edit Pokemon front. God, they're so long. Right? Edit name, input equals to. Do I have to do the document.query selector? Yeah, I could do that. I could do e.target.query selector because it takes in a right. I can call query selector on an element. So the query selector, what is the and I got that from right here, right? Before I get crazy and do anything else, right? Edit name input. Cool. Just gonna test my code little by little. Check the console. Bloop, bloop. And I see I in fact get that input. Right? Let's see if I can check to see if I can grab the value properly. So, edit, I need something for the name, and then submit. And I'm grabbing the value properly. So now I should continue to grab the rest of the values. All right? You shouldn't like write all three of them and then be like, oh snap, like it doesn't work. And then you wrote a bunch of code that doesn't work, all right? So naturally, I'm just gonna go bloop, bloop, right? Instead of name input, I'm gonna put what? Front and the back. Now that's too crazy. Cool. And what are the, what is it? Edit poke front, God, I've screwed myself. Edit poke front sprite. And what is this? Probably, very likely, sprite. Sprite. Cool. Let's just make sure so I'm not crazy. Edit poke back sprite. Got it. And I'm getting the values of all of them. And I can always do edit front, comma, edit back. And then I'm going to console. I'm going to go edit. I'm going to put A here like a boss. And then I'm going to put B here like a boss. And then I'm going to put D here because C is for chumps. Cool. Great. A, B, and D. So I'm getting them properly. Right? This has been quite a long lecture. I want to take a quick pause to see if anyone is confused as to why I'm listening for a submit on the container, why I had to create a separate one from this click, where this prevent default is doing, why I did this if statement. Just those 3 questions so far. Do you feel comfortable with all of those things? Great. Why does this work? Can you answer it? Check or hold. Cool. Great. So we have the inputs, right? Finally have the inputs. We have the form. We have the edit form. We've got all the data. Let's go back to see. I'm listening for the submit of the brand new form I just made. We did that. We grabbed those inputs. We prevented the default no crazy full page refresh or reload. And now we're finally getting to the patch, right? Because now that I have all the data, I need to actually update the server. Great. What do I do here? I'm going to send that powerful fetch request. And what is the RESTful route to edit a very particular Pokemon? Patch, right? Except we're missing something. That is the HTTP verb. /ID. So that tells me I need to send in a particular ID. Do I have access to the ID? How? Where? Which one is it? Is it though? Well, let's take a quick look at what is, remember, e.target. Let's take a quick look at what that is. Cool. Let's comment this out so it doesn't send a weird fetch request for no reason. And let's find out. Bloop. Console. Bloop. Bloop. So it's this form. It's this form. Well, we know it's this edit Pokemon form. We have this, right? This is the form that we're getting. It's e.target. Let's take a look at the console. Remember, if it's highlighted, what should it be in the console? $0, right? I can confirm this by just getting dollars. I just cleared it so you can see it, right? So what is $0 dot? Is there anything that tells me what the ID of the Pokemon is? Can I just go data ID? So e.target, I can go up 1 level because that was the button that gave me this edit form. So e.target, paramount, dataset ID. That's going to give me the exact one. It's kind of gross. There's cleaner, better ways, but I just need to solve it. I will show you a refactor later.
I was going to ask if we could interpolate the ID in the form itself.
100%. I can easily add an ID here, and it would be less gross. All right? Do you guys want to do that instead? Okay. Sure. Cool. data dash ID equals to what? What is this though? What is e.target here? What is it? You think it's just ID? You think that's right? I don't actually know. I would have to double check it, but let's find out. Cool. And that's just the edit button. Oh, actually, what am I doing? I should see if the form has it, right? And there it is, data ID 7. I can hit my face like Andrew. Sorry. Much love to my boy. So, now that we did that, we can do, instead of traversing the DOM, we can do that. Any questions on how I got there? Okay, which means that my patch request will in fact go to a particular Pokemon. No, we prevented the default, right? So it's not going to do anything actually. But what are we actually going to do? Right, method. We need to patch that thing. And what are we going to patch? What are the what are the things that we need? What are the MIME types? Like what's everything that goes in the fetch? Who remembers? Who wants me to just look it up real quick so you can see it? That's all I need to know. I'm sorry, it's using fetch, this one. Great, using fetch. I have a method. Do I need cores or mode? Do I need cache? Credentials? Great, I need headers. Cool. So I'm going to send JSON over. What am I going to get back? Cool, right? Nice. What else? Do I need a redirect? Do I need a refer? Do I need to send some sort of body? Great. Great, now you're getting it. Cool. This data is in fact an object. Easy peasy, super clean. What am I sending over? Name equals to. Notice how this looks pretty similar. Is it though? Right, if this looks really similar, because I wrote it already, and I noticed that it was similar, I have an idea for a refactor. Do not try to refactor your code before you wrote it and made it work. This is the only time I've noticed that I'm like, oh wow, I'm sending the same thing here. I'm sending the same thing here except patch. Maybe I can write some sort of function that replaces this as an argument and replaces these as arguments, as a refactor. I'm not going to do it, but just getting that idea that only after I've written it and noticed that I've repeated myself a couple times do I see a room for refactor. If you try to refactor now before it works, you're going to have a bad time. All right? First make it work, then make it sexy. So is it new Pokemon name? All right? It's all of these now instead. Does that make sense? Great. So the fetch. Any questions on it so far? It's pretty straightforward, right? So where do I call the then? I'm in JavaScript hell. Which one is it? After the fetch. When the fetch is done, I can call then. Does that make sense? See how powerful these lines are? So, what's the first thing I want to check in there? All right, I'm getting some sort of response. All right, little arrow function. Are you cool with that? I can just parse the JSON there. if I write an arrow function on one line without curly brackets, it'll implicitly return. We'll get more into arrow functions later. Is anyone confused as to what I just wrote and what it's doing? Thumbs up? All right. For those that don't, I'm just going to write function for funsies. And I'm just going to return, right? I'm going to get something in here, some sort of response. And I'm going to just parse the response. Cool? And because I've returned it, what do I have access to? Oops. I have access to the return value here. So without getting too fancy, because some of you don't like the arrow function yet, I'm going to get the what? I'm going to get the Pokemon that was updated. All right? So here I can just try to see if I can console log the Pokemon. So far, so good. Cool with these thens. Great. I'm going to now refresh. I'm going to edit. And I'm going to say, now you are Mike Chang. Oh, man. Dang it. I got to put a new image in here. Let's just figure out what this is. Let's just guess. Cool. I'm going to hit edit that Pokemon. What do you think will happen? I got a response back that says that the name is Mike Chang and that the sprites are whatever I put in. Interesting. How come I don't see anything? Because I did not update the DOM. So this right here means, right, updated the database. The fetch, the patch will do that. So if that is the case, on refresh, what should I see? I should see what? Mike Chang and whatever the sprites were I just changed. Like, I don't know what they are. Oh, wow, they happen to be the same. Lucky me. But now it's Mike Chang. Does that make sense? How can I update the DOM now? That's the hardest part of this. The hardest part of the patch is not this, because it looks just like post. What's the hard part of the patch? Well, the easy thing about post is, great, make a new one, throw it right at the end. I don't have to think about where my object is. I don't have to think about that. So, how can I update the current one that I'm on? So for example, right, let's say I wanted to update Metapod instead, and I hit update, and I changed it to, I don't know, Charizard, and I hit edit that Pokemon. How can I know for sure the DOM I'm going to edit this one particularly? That's a real brain buster. Right? So, let's think it through. I know that when I render them, I'm calling some sort of show all Pokemon. I'm calling some sort of show all Pokemon with the data. Right? Could I go through all the Pokemon, find the one I edited, update that in the array, and then re-render it? Would that work? So for example, right now I'm rendering all 151, right? If I change this one, which happens to be the second one, could I go in my array, find the second one, update the data for the second one, and then re-render everything? Would that update my DOM successfully? It would, yeah. Because I'm re-rendering it after I've made a change. So the idea here is inside this patch, I've updated the database, right? That's done. Boom. Cool. Actually, that's not nearly as good. Let's get this green one. Boom. Right? Thanks, fetch. Thanks, fetch. right? Because the fetch is what actually touches the database and updates it. So far, so good? Questions on that? The next thing I want to do is I want to update the DOM. The way I want to do that is I need to re-render with updated data. Right? I have to update my data, then re-render it. So there's two ways to do this. The first way is I can get a fetch, get all my Pokemon again, find it in that fetch request, edit the one Pokemon, then re-render with all that data. That is a very, very long process. Luckily for us, we have all of the data stored. Right? So what I can do is I can find the Pokemon in my local data, update the local data, which is, at this point, all Pokemon, and then I can re-render with the new data. Does this seem like a good plan?
We're re-rendering everything in this scenario. We're not re-rendering just that specific update.
We're just going to render everything again because we're going to update the entire array, and then we're going to re-render everything. So this implies that I also have to update local variables. Right? So remember the three things you have to update, and that is the database, what the user sees, and what the developer sees.
Is there an easier way to just update the one Pokemon card? Without re-rendering all the Pokemon cards, just render the individual?
Yes, that is more efficient, but is not easier. Right? I'm just trying to show you the easiest way because it's a lot of information. So I have all of my Pokemon, right? Let's see an example of something that's very interesting. This becomes your ability to mess with data. I have an array. Let's do this instead. All right, let's do this. Let super array equals to this. Cool. How do I find the index of something in an array? That's right. Cool. I can pass in a value I know, and it'll tell me the index that it's in. So back to this example. I can say super array. What is the index of C? What should I get? 2. Right? Which is a value. So can I do something like const index equals 2? Right. How about this? I'll make it super clear. Index of C is this. Right? So what is index of C? What is the super array at an index of 2? What is the super array at an index of C? Remember, index of C is 2. The index of 2 is C, so the index of C is C. Are there any questions so far? This is just simple array manipulation. If I were to do index of C, and I'm going to reassign it to be updated C, what is the super array? if I know, if I know the name of the object inside my array, I can get its index, and then I can call the index of it and reassign it. Are there any questions as to what I just did in regards to finding the index of something, using that index to update the array? Do you guys want a break? Okay. Great, so we will need to re-render the DOM with this updated object. Since we just learned that if I know the name of an object inside, I can call the index of. It'll give me the index. I can use that knowledge to update that exact item at that index. So, if we remember, we have all Pokemon, which is an array of all of our Pokemon data. If that's the case, I can call what is the index of, and I have to pass it in a Pokemon object to match. Do I have access to a Pokemon object here? Do I have access to a Pokemon object here? Okay, cool. So I can say const index of Pokemon equals to this. So let's check what the index of the Pokemon I just updated, right? So let's check out Firo, and let's name him 0. And I'm just gonna get rid of his data because I'm a loser. So if I hit edit that Pokemon, what is this? Right? That's not exactly what I was looking for. What is the Pokemon object that comes back? What is the Pokemon object that comes back? Yeah, but I want to see what it is. Ah, I see. It's this thing. No, it's fine. It's yeah, we do. You can run find as well on it. Actually, we'll just run find. This looks like not what I want. What I'm trying to do, sorry, it's been a long day. I'm trying to find a particular Pokemon inside this array and get the index of it so I can edit that Pokemon. Why is that not running? Oh, that's right. This is the updated one. You're totally right. I am losing my mind. We have to call it here before it gets updated. So we can do that. Let's do it this way. I'm just trying to get through this quickly. So we have const. Actually, let's do this. We have the index of the Pokemon. I don't have the Pokemon object, right? We have to run find. Oh, we have the ID, right? So, whoa, zoning, sorry. We have a function already that can find a Pokemon based on its ID, right? When you update a Pokemon, does that change its ID? No. So, I can do found Pokemon, and based on lexical scoping, will this clash? No, right? Based on lexical scoping. So I can do all the Pokemon. I can go through, pass in a callback for that Pokemon's ID. Do I have access to the ID of that Pokemon? What is it? Huh?
Hey, it should be Pokemon that
Oh man, they're the same variable. Let's pull it out of here. It should be outside. It should be outside of this because this edits the Pokemon. I want it before it edits. All right. We have e.target.
We have the ID. The ID is the same. We can still grab it by the ID and then update it.
You're gonna grab by the ID and update it.
Yeah, because we have that already from the event.
Right. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to grab this Pokemon object beforehand so I can get the index of it. And then I want to update it based on the index so that it keeps the correct position. So I can find the Pokemon, right? Based on that Pokemon's ID. What is e.target here? It's the form. I also have dataset.id, right? Yeah. If this equals, then I will have, in fact, a Pokemon.
That should, because of our scope, flash with the one that's inside.
Let's do old Pokemon. Right, before the update. Oops, it's extra string here, no reason. So what I'm doing is, before it hits the fetch, I'm trying to find this old Pokemon. Oops, I'm so stupid. Yeah. On the submit. Undefined. What is e.target of data set? Isn't this it? Or is it this one? Let's check. On submit is here. Data.id. I should have found it. Return a Pokemon. Returns the Pokemon where the target is equal to this data set. Yo, am I missing something? Inside all Pokemon. Yeah.
Are there Pokemon in the all Pokemon at this point?
Hmm?
Are Pokemon in the all Pokemon at this point?
Oh, I think it's the ID. Yeah, on form submit they have to be.
On form submit, it should be the same. There hasn't been a change.
Comparing
Oh,
a string against the string, or a number against the number, or a number against the string.
you might be right. You might be right. There it is. Cool. 10 points to Gryffindor.
Slytherin, guys.
Cool. So I was comparing a number. Thank you, thank you. I knew I wasn't crazy. I was comparing a number against the dataset ID always comes back as a string value. So the triple equals will never work.
So it would be better to update the body and the fetches and convert it to digits there.
Not necessarily. You can either triple equal parse int or double equals like I did. And the choice is yours. All right, so now I have the old Pokemon. Great, now I can do that nonsense. And that is in the all Pokemon array. I can check what the index of the old Pokemon is. And I can set that to old Poke index. Cool. Do. Great, 13. So far, so good. I'm getting the index of it. So now, this exists, right? Based on scope. What I can do is I can take the zoning all Pokemon array at a key of the old Pokemon index. Oh man. Is that it, or Poke Index? Right? And I can assign it to be the new Pokemon. What I'm doing is I'm taking the index of the old one and making it this new Pokemon. That's how I'm updating the array. Now that the array is updated, I can re-render everything with the, where's that show all Pokemon? Then I can re-render everything with all Pokemon array. This updates the Pokemon, and I'm going to trigger a re-render. Cool? So Nidoqueen is now Nido 2019, whatever. And it updated. Cool? All right. I mean, obviously the sprites went away because I didn't like add it in. All right. That was a lot to kind of go through. What I did was, as I showed you with the array, I needed to be able to find the original Pokemon, and I needed to do it before any of the edit happens. This gives me the old Pokemon in the find function. Once I have the old Pokemon, I can call the index of that old Pokemon. That gives me its index. Once I have the index, I can grab it. Let's say all Pokemon at an index of 3 is what? At an index of 3 is going to be 0, 1, 2, I don't know. What's this last one over here? Let's just say, forget it, index of 2, right? Raticate. So all Pokemon at an index of 2 would be Raticate. If I edit that Pokemon, the return value from the then would be the new version of Raticate, which I'm assigning to that place in the index. So when I re-render all Pokemon, I'm keeping the correct position at the index now with the new data. And then I re-render it. It's inside the then. So is this pessimistic or optimistic? Pessimistic. Cool? All right. Are there any questions on patch? What are your questions?
I don't get what you just did.
Okay, we could talk offline. We could talk offline. And this is how you'll have to do delete. I'm going to walk you through the steps.
Because we already have the ID of the Pokemon, that never changes.
The index.
No, I get you. Hold on. We have the ID of the Pokemon, that never changes.
Yeah.
Could we not have in the then function done our find of the all Pokemon on that ID
We could have.
so that we never had to delete that?
We could have done the find. The problem is I can't call index of it because it'll never find.
On all Pokemon based on finding that.
Inside here, I cannot, because the error I ran into is inside here, even though the ID is the same, when I run index of that Pokemon that I found, it will be the new updated Pokemon. And it will never, all Pokemon.index of a updated Pokemon will always return undefined because that new Pokemon is not in the Pokemon array. I have to do the finding of it beforehand, before it gets updated. Right? So for example, this is going to be really quick, and then I'll have to let you go. You have A, B, and C. If I updated C, and then I try to call the index of with this new updated value, I'll never find it because I've updated it. So I have to do it before the edit happens. Cool. So really, really quick, I'm going to talk you through delete, and then we'll do delete, and I'll show you like all the cool refactor along with the functional programming lecture on Monday. This is just the thought process. We have e.target of a submit, and that's for the form. We have a click for the image, and we have a click for edit. How would I listen for this delete? I would do this exact thing with delete, right? Because the delete button has a data set action of delete. So I would copy this, right? I would just do this. Make this delete. And now I'm always listening for the deletes. Nothing fancy needs to happen in delete. I can run the fetch using this same URL. Let's just stop right here. Because I need an ID. Remember your delete, right? Your RESTful routing. You need to know which one. Quick old switcheroo here. Are you going to be sending data? What data are you sending? Just the request for delete. You're not sending over any data. So do I need headers? No. Do I need anything else really? No, right? I can basically close it right here. .then. And then I would, what? Do I need to parse a JSON response here? No, right here, I would remove from DOM. So this makes the fetch, it deletes it from the database, then I remove the DOM. What else do I have to do? So I updated the database, I update the DOM, and then I need to and how am I going to do that? I'm going to find the Pokemon from earlier, right? Like inside here. I'm going to find the Pokemon. And then inside the then, using that index technique, I can remove it from the array. I can also splice it, right? If I know it, if I know which one it is, I can get rid of it. So find the Pokemon, remove from all Pokemon. Cool. We'll handle this on Monday. Sorry, lecture ran really long, but that's all I got for you.